Expecting to hear from the Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar, who is meeting with his counterpart Mette Frederiksen. We're expecting he may say something about the latest proposals from the Prime Minister on the Irish backstop. Let's listen in.
The Green Agenda. It must be given top priority for both countries, and I think we have to work closely together to meet the climate changes on both a political and a practical level, domestically and within the European level. I think our first political goal is to reach an agreement on neutrality within the European Union in 2050. We also had the opportunity to have a short discussion about the EU budget. We explained our positions. I'll just say some few words about the Danish one. We cannot just spend, if you ask me, and I think we need to be very restrictive when it comes to the EU budget. Of course, what we have discussed a lot is Brexit, deadline at the end of the month, and I think this is a great opportunity for us to discuss how to handle this very difficult situation. Of course, primarily Ireland, but also Denmark will be affected by Brexit. And I understand that the British government wants a new discussion, and of course we are ready to do so. Next couple of weeks are uncertain. And of course, we are all preparing, I think, for a no deal. But I still hope that we'll be able to find a solution. And with these few words, I'll pass the floor to you.
Well, thank you very much, Prime Minister, and thank you so much for your hospitality here in Copenhagen. Was here this morning to open our new Enterprise Ireland office, our 39th in the world, and also to meet with the Prime Minister. And I'm honoured to be the first visiting Prime Minister to come to Copenhagen since your election. And congratulations on your election, and hope to work very closely with you in the years ahead. We've met, of course, in Brussels and in New York, but this is the first time we've managed to meet bilaterally in one of our capitals. And I'd love to see you come to Dublin at some stage. Whenever you're able to find the time, you'd be extremely welcome. The visit today is really all about deepening relations between Ireland and Denmark, political relations, economic relations, and also person-to-person relations. Our bilateral relationship is very good, always has been very good, but we think it can be deepened and strengthened further. And Denmark and Ireland are very much two countries that share similar views and similar values, both within the European Union and also on the world stage. So I think there's a lot that we can do together. As you can imagine, we had a good discussion on Brexit, assessing the state of play there and the prospect of securing an agreement in the next few weeks. Also had a very good discussion on climate change and on the environment. And I think Denmark is a country that can teach Ireland a lot about how we can do better on climate action and on the environment. Everything from reducing greenhouse gas emissions to renewable energy to what I saw today in the way in which this is such a city that's friendly to cycling and to people walking as well, a really calm and livable city, and a good example perhaps to be followed by urban areas across Ireland. And we had discussion as well on the MFF. We're coming from a slightly different perspective to Denmark. Denmark has been a long-term contributor to the EU budget, net contributor to the EU budget. Ireland is a net contributor for the first time now, and we anticipate our contributions to the EU budget are going to increase considerably over the next 4 or 5 years because of the growth in our economy. And our focus is very much on making sure that the money that we pay into the European budget is actually well spent, that administration costs are minimised, but that we have adequate funding for programmes that work very well, like the Common Agricultural Policy, like research investment, Horizon, and investment in security as well. But I suppose we're beginning the discussions on that, and that's going to be a really huge issue for the new Commission and the new Council President when they take up office in the next few months.
And now the floor is open. Maybe we'll start with some few questions from the Irish press.
Thank you very much. Obviously, a lot has happened overnight, and your comments yesterday in Stockholm drew the ire of Arlene Foster and have the Taoiseach's comments as well. Things have moved on significantly since then. Obviously, the Scottish court have revealed that the British Prime Minister looks likely to accept or look for an extension on October 19th. What is your comment in relation to those developments, and do you regret the comments that you made to Arlene Foster or about the DUP yesterday and to the Danish Prime Minister? Will Ireland come under significant pressure in the coming days to accede to British demands, or will Europe stand in solidarity with Ireland?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't really want to comment on court cases that are happening in the UK. They'll play themselves out. Our focus is on securing an agreement, on getting a deal at the EU Council Summit. I believe that's possible, but in order for it to be possible, all sides have to reaffirm the shared objectives. When this started 2 or 3 years ago, coming to an agreement required that there would be no hard border between Ireland North and South, that the integrity of the single market of the European Union will be protected, and that the all-island economy will be protected. So I think what we need to do is refocus on those objectives and try to come to an agreement by the middle of October, which I think is possible. In terms of anything I said yesterday, I don't think I actually said anything at all about the DUP, so I can't regret a comment I didn't make. But what I can say is that I'm not interested in a quarrel with anyone. I am interested in coming to solutions, but any solution that pertains to Northern Ireland and Ireland, has to have the support of the people of Ireland and Northern Ireland. And I'm conscious that we had an agreement with Prime Minister May. That agreement was supported by 4 parties in Northern Ireland, representing the majority of people in Northern Ireland, as well as the business community, as well as civil society. What's been put on the table by Prime Minister Johnson is not supported by business in Northern Ireland, by civil society, and is only supported by one political party. So I think there's a long way to go before we can get back to the position where we have an agreement that actually carries the support of the people of Northern Ireland and the people of the Republic of Ireland as well. And democracy matters, and any agreement that affects Ireland deeply, of course, has to have the support of people on both parts of the island.
I don't think Ireland should be put under pressure, and I think the rest of Europe should stand together with Ireland, as we have already done. Yeah.
Prime Minister, Boris Johnson has proposed to minimize the need for checks by moving some of it to the Irish Sea and moving some of it away from the border, and the rest of it should be done by computers or on computers. But even that seems to be too hard a border for you. So I'd like to know, is it no checks or no deal for you? And for Mette Frederiksen, the Taoiseach is a key player in avoiding a no deal that would also cost jobs in Denmark. Do you think he has shown enough willingness to compromise, or would you like him to relax some of his red lines, the Taoiseach? Yeah.
From Ireland's point of view, we regret that Brexit is happening, but we respect the decision of the UK people to leave the European Union. As a consequence of Brexit, we've always acknowledged that there would have to be checks, regrettably. And we've argued that the least obtrusive way to do that is to have those checks in the ports and in the airports, rather than along a 500-kilometre border with 300 crossings. The agreement we came to with Prime Minister May satisfied that, allowed for those checks to take place in the ports and airports and not along the land border. The difficulty with what Prime Minister Johnson has put on the table is that, on the face of it at least, it appears to create 2 borders, checks in the ports and the airports, and also near the land border. And that's the difficulty that we have, and the difficulty that the people in Northern Ireland have, and the business community have in Northern Ireland too.
I'll say that I think no one wins when it comes to Brexit, and I think we should do still all we can to avoid it, and to try to find a good solution. But at the same time, I respect that there are some special difficulties when it comes to Ireland, and I actually truly respect that.
Taoiseach, Stephen Murphy from Sky News, and Prime Minister, thank you. Would you, if Boris Johnson does, I know you said you don't want to comment on court cases that are ongoing, but if Boris Johnson does submit a request for an extension by October the 19th, would you consider it, both of you?
The short answer to your question is yes. My preference is that we come to an agreement, that we have a deal in the middle of October, and we can then begin the negotiations on the future relationship and the free trade agreement. As I've always said, Brexit doesn't end with the UK leaving. It just moves to the next phase of negotiations. So my preference is that we have that agreement at the Council in the middle of October. But if the UK government were to request an extension, I think we would consider that. Of course we would consider it. But I think most EU countries would really only consider it for a good reason. That reason would have to be put forward, but certainly an extension would be better than no deal.
I prefer an agreement, of course, but to answer very short, yes, to your question. TV2.
Yes, Mr. Prime Minister, you said before that the latest proposal from Boris Johnson, the people of Ireland cannot accept that. But what is the alternative? What are your suggestion for a solution if we should reach a solution by the end of this month?
Yeah, I think we had a solution, and that solution is the withdrawal agreement, including the protocol in Ireland, which we negotiated in good faith with the British government over the course of 2 years. And that's a solution that was supported by 28 member states, 28 member state governments, including the British government. Unfortunately, it didn't secure the ratification of the House of Commons, and it's not abundantly clear to us that there's any agreement that will secure a majority in the House of Commons, but we have to work towards that, and we're willing to do so.
And Mette Frederiksen, just one question for you too also. Obviously in Denmark we talk a lot about the consequences for Denmark with Brexit, but have you told anything to the Irish Prime Minister that we can help them, because they are kind of in more than a mess than we are?
I think I agree with you that Ireland will be more affected than Denmark will. But if you look at the whole Europe, then Denmark is actually one of the countries who will be mostly affected by Brexit. Of course, that's also one of the reasons why I am against Brexit and really hope that we'll be able to find good solutions. I don't consider myself in a condition where I can give advices or anything like that to Ireland, but we can work closely together and we can stand together. Also when it's tough and hard times for all of us. And I think your visit today is showing how important this relationship is between our two countries. And of course we are going to work together closely also in the near future. And that would be the last word. So thank you all of you for coming here today. Thank you.
Okay.